Hi, my name is Sandy Baird, and I'm here with Eric Agnero, and this is our monthly program called What's Happening. It is sponsored by the Vermont Institute of Community and International Involvement, and this once a month we get to talk together with you, sometimes with people abroad, on important current events. The most important event appears to me to be the elections in Europe and in Iran. And we have with us an international guest who will analyze and comment on those elections in France, in the UK, and in Iran, if we can figure it all out. So Eric Agnero will begin.
Yes, thank you, Sandy. We are joined from London by a political analyst, Manix Mantho, who has been living in London for the past almost 30 years and has a good insight on what went on in the elections in Great Britain. But also, you know, as someone living in Europe, Manix will certainly help us decipher what happened also in France.
Right.
Two very
as much
important,
as we can.
as
right.
much as we can. Also, shall we bring in our guest?
Yes,
maybe?
right away.
Manix, could you tell us? Let's start with England. Yeah. What happened over there? Why are people so excited about, you know, this change of power?
Thank you, Eric, for having me. What has happened in England? It's a resounding taking of responsibilities from the general people after 14 long years of the Conservative ruling party. The citizens of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland have decided to change the way they want to see the country forward. So the Labour Party has won a landslide victory that can be compared almost to the landslide victory of Tony Blair decades back. So this is the people talking to the politics, asking them to listen to them instead of listening and making party politics. So if I can resume what happened last week here in England, is that the Labour Party has won almost 411 seats. And they are up 2009 seats from last election in 2019. That is a total gaining from the Conservative Party. So the Conservatives have lost a lot of seats. And something that we can take from this election also is the rise of small parties. I'm talking about Reform Party, the Green Party, and if you wish, during this program, we can talk more about this.
I would like to, what especially interested me was two things. Was the election of Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party at one point, and he ran as an independent against Labour, and yet he won. Could you comment on that and tell our viewers and us what all that might mean, that Jeremy Corbyn, against enormous odds actually, won that seat against the Labour Party?
Okay, thank you. Something had to be said about the stance taken by Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, as you rightly said, has been the Labour leader party at some point, and is a grassroots politician. The seat is holding in Islington. He held this seat since the late 80s. So he knows his constituency, he knows his constituents, and he knows the politics inside out. The problem with the problem, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The problem with Jeremy Corbyn is not a question of leadership. It is merely a question of party politics, because he put forward some values that the Labour Party was considering being a little bit awkward. It's about anti-Semitism. There was some cases of anti-Semitism within the party, and he didn't take the decision that the party wanted him to take at this time. So he's been asked to leave the party, and because of his past, because he knows the party inside out, and because he knows his constituents is being expelled from the party, but he stood apart as an independent and won. So this is also a lesson that party should actually take on board. Party politics will never be taken into account when the will and the people are into the frame. The people will always prevail above party politics. That's what I can say about Jeremy Corbyn winning the election as an independent candidate.
All right, let me ask you something more directly. Jeremy Corbyn is very pro-Palestinian and very against the current war between Israel and the people of Gaza. And he was accused of his own party, when he took that stand, of being more pro-Palestinian, being anti-Semitic. And he was driven out of the Labour Party. However, he is now back. Do you suppose that the reason that he is back and that he won is because he opposes the war of Israel against Gaza? Is that why he won? And is that
maybe why the people
why
the people supported him? Yes.
Well, that can be interpreted like this, because let's be honest with ourselves here. The party politics have been ruling over countries like England for too long. The people have spoken against the war in Gaza, and they have entirely said to the government that the Palestinians are suffering as much as the Ukrainian people are suffering, that all this massacre should stop. But the party policies are governed by many decisions and interests that are not the interest of the people. Coming back to Jeremy Corbyn is a man of the people. He's a man of the people, and he's won. We can say that he's won because of his stance according to the war in Gaza, but it's also the view that he's putting aside, because now we have a Labour Party that is going more to the center, while he was more to the left of the Labour Party. So the Labour Party is now very much into the field of the Conservatives. So this is also something that many voters are confused with. Jeremy Corbyn is seen as a very leftist politician, while the new Prime Minister that we have, and Sir Keir Starmer, is at the left center of the Labour Party. So probably he stands on Gaza, he stands on human rights, he stands on socialism, is one of the reasons why he's won as an independent candidate.
Great. Okay.
Let's talk now about the rise of small parties, and it's like something that we've been seeing across the globe, and France has also shown that. In England, is it also the case? Is it really the rise of small parties, or just something that happened? Is there a real movement of the small parties? Is the status quo being challenged?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Let's not be mistaken about what is happening around Europe. There has been a rise of the small parties, as you rightly said so. But it's not something that is new. It's not a new phenomenon. It's been underground for quite a long time. Reform, as is now known, is not a new party as such, because Nigel Farage, who is the leader of Reform, has been in politics under many other names. I mean, not his own name, but the names of the parties that he was creating. Those people are mainly for national pride and also for nationalism. They're against Europe, and he was one of the main leaders of the Brexit. So people are just picking up their mind. They are seeing that their condition and their welfare is very, very difficult at the moment, as it is in many European countries. and they put this down to the Brexit, or they put down to England or the UK being in Europe. So now Brexit has failed, but Nigel Farage and his party, the Reform Party, are telling now their voters that the Brexit has not been well negotiated. That's one of the reasons why they're still suffering, that they will take the UK completely out of the Europe system. Financially, we are out. Legally, we are not out because we still are governed by Europe. So this is one of the main reasons why people are thinking that the welfare system, the NHS, and all the suffering of the people is down to a very bad negotiated Brexit. So they're going back to the reform, hoping that reform will bring back the shining days.
Maybe we're witnessing a response to the failed promises of globalization. The English are repelling the European Union. In France, like what happened is the result of the European elections. Do you think that NATO and all these alliances that are waging war across the globe are being repelled by the citizens?
Thank you, Eric. I think this is a very important point that you just made here. It have to be said that what we have now around the world, in Europe and elsewhere, is the politics of the countries, while the politics should be done for the people. So the politicians are not really listening to the voice of the people. So what we've seen here in the UK and also in France is a way for the people to tell the politicians to listen to their wills. The value that the politicians are putting up front is the value of humanism, is the value of democracy, but the real democracy has spoken. The real democracy wants more power to the people and not power concentrated in the hands of the elite politicians. This is what we can say. The resounding success of the Labour Party here in the UK. Can you imagine that in 2019, the Conservative have won most of the seats in Parliament? They are down 2009 seats, and they only have won 121 seats. This is something that was quite unthinkable a few years back. So I think the politicians have to put themselves into question and ask themselves, are we doing really what the people want?
I think, can I ask you a question? Yes. I think Eric is on to something, however. There's a massive, it seems, resistance to globalization, and that's true in this country as well. There's a return to the idea of, in this country, of America first, which has been interpreted as kind of out of control nationalism. But I believe that Americans really don't see globalization as anything that has helped anyone in our own country. For instance, all these wars are clearly not in America's interests. And I think probably the elections here, as well as in Europe, I think Europeans probably feel the same way. An end to all these wars which are draining every national budget of all of its money. I see this in the election primarily of Jeremy Corbyn in England, and in France. I'm wondering as well, is there a reaction against the war in Ukraine and against wars in general, which dragged France down, which dragged down the UK and dragged down the United States of America? And could you comment on that? Or what do you think?
Yeah, totally. I think you got a good point here. The majority of the European people, and mainly the UK citizen people in Britain, are against war, because the war is not serving the people. It's only serving some interest that the people are not benefiting from. So it's okay to say that the results of this election in the UK are also a reminder to the politician to listen to what the people really want. And let's say that there has been many rallies here in the UK against the war. It's not the very first time. It's been happening ever since the invasion of Iraq. But those voices are not being heard in parliament. So the way for them to actually sanction the politician is to vote for smaller parties, hoping that the smaller parties and the independent, like people like Jeremy Corbyn, will be the voice in parliament and make people realize that the war is not serving their interest, but it's only for the interest of the rich and the interest of some industrialized tycoon here in the UK and elsewhere.
In France, the rise of Marine Le Pen and her political party was also, stigmatized as a way of bringing anti-immigration. But do you think that immigration is the only real issue here? Because I see also that immigration is being, it's weighing on the people. I don't know if it's good to wish that someone leaves his country in Africa, and go through the ocean, can die over there just to get some peanuts in Europe. Maybe the Europeans are also saying that immigration is not the answer.
Surely, immigration has been actually used by many political parties and many countries to try to hide their failure to bring about real change to people's life. Let's say that immigration is not the problem here. Immigration is for what people, economic people are saying. Immigration is a very good thing for every country. We can abide by the law as immigrants, but it's also important that the politicians recognize that immigration is a good thing for many European countries. So the point that they're making about immigration, I think, is really anachronic, and it's just trying to hide the failed politics that they're not being able to address properly. So immigration is being manipulated for the profit of those people, because in any country, when the migrants arrive in the country, they work, most of them work, even when they are not legalized, they do work on the ground, and all this work that done by the immigrants serve the country economic. It could be the black economy, but it's still an economy that will help the country absorb not only the employment problem, but also give a plus into the GDP of the country.
But is it fair to wish?
Sorry to step in. I think the resounding and the necessity for the left parties in France to come together in order to block Marine Le Pen and his party to come into parliament and into Matignon is a awakening that should sound all across Europe. But immigration should not be manipulated only for the purpose of coming into power. Because even when those people will come in power, they will have to deal with those migrants who are working. And I don't think that a country like the UK will be able to expel about 356,000 migrants that are working here legally.
Well, I hope that they can't do that, that's for sure. But I have another question about...
Let me tell you something. Sir Starmer, the new Prime Minister, has said on the second interview that he has given to the BBC that he will revoke the systematic removal of immigrants that have been decided shamefully by the Conservative Party with the deal to send migrants and everyone wishing for better life in the UK, send them back to Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. He has said that he will not be doing this. And this is something that we can take as a victory, because this is someone who also understands how people live and how people work, because he himself is a child of a very long lineage of immigrants here in the UK.
Did you?
Yeah, but on the immigration problem, Manix, I heard also that people are fed up with. I mean, people don't seem to understand that the wars that are being, propagated around the world result in this, massive immigration. Did you hear during these elections something about what to do with Africa, what to do with the global South? Are the British, aware that, if their country continues to subjugate, people around the world, there will be a massive migration.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not only the British. I mean, because it's the same thing here. The current ideology in the United States is that people are trying to get to the United States and flee their countries because their countries are pathetic and corrupt and so forth. And the other reason they're continually saying that people are trying to get here is because of the climate crisis. I want to ask you a different question. Aren't most people fleeing their countries because of war and because of crime? For instance, from Latin America, it's because kids are being put into gangs or they're suffering from crimes. And those crimes are often the result of poverty. And so why isn't the United States concentrating instead, and maybe Europe too, on making those, or helping those countries become prosperous in the first place?
Well, at least let them alone.
Well, wait a minute, let them alone for one thing. Yeah. For instance, let Cuba alone for one thing. But why isn't the United States and Europeans more active in helping people in their own countries stay there and become prosperous, instead of causing wars in those countries? That's true in Africa, for instance, and in Syria. It's the United States and the Europeans' continual, I think, perpetuation of war that causes people like immigrants to leave. I might be wrong, but that's what it appears to me. I don't know.
Well, I think you're mistaken here. Most of the war waged around the world are mainly because of resources, right? Yes. So the West is not really willing to let Africa, Asia, and all those countries where those resources are abundant to prosper, because that will mean that they will have to deal equal to equal with these people. So the war they're waging against Africa and the rest of the world is because of resources. It's oily, provocative war. They need oil, they need raw materials, and those raw materials are mainly found in Africa. And because they don't want to pay the right price. Today we're talking about fair trade. It's one of the things that Europe and the US should think about, is how to deal equal to equal with those countries. Can you imagine the US president talking to his homologue of an African country, addressing him as Mr. President? But can you imagine that happening with the French system? They are talking down to African presidents as if they were some kind of buffoon people. So this is one of the reasons why I think the war that we're seeing all around the world is not like it used to be. Is not a war for identity like it was with Hitler and the Nazi, but it's a war of raw material and resources. Yes. And those resources are mainly abundant in the African soil. And this is one of the reasons why the West is waging those wars to get the resources at very, very, very cheap. Let's take the case of Libya and Syria.
Mm-hmm.
The oil there, when there is war, nobody is concerned about protecting the wealth of the country. You are more down to protect your life. So in the meantime, the West and its allies are pumping the wealth out of those countries that are in war and destroying the country to come after and propose a rebuilding and a plan Marshall. So when they propose this kind of new plan Marshall to those African countries, this will keep the African countries in some kind of static position of assisted country, because the plan Marshall is not free. It has to be repaid, and the repayment and the condition of the repayment with the mechanism put upon those countries by the IMF and the World Bank are very, very disastrous. And I don't see those African countries coming back from this position unless Europe and the US politicians realize that those countries have population that need to be fed as well as the US population and the Euro population. We all aspire for better life. And there will be no better life if we have no resources and if the wealth is pumped out of the country.
Okay. All right. So
thank you very much, Manix.
Yes.
Okay, maybe the last question. People thought that, the citizens of Europe, didn't get anything, and then all of a sudden we're seeing that, citizens are voting, citizens are making their voice heard. Is there a change that you have noticed within the electoral corps? Is there any thing that is changing? Is it immigration? Is it the fact that, now we are a more métis, population in Europe, so that if you go knock on Palestinians back home in the UK, back home in France, you will see citizens that will
see pushback.
Yeah, will push back. Did you see that?
Yeah, I have definitely seen things like this. Today, I must say that the result of those elections are not down to immigration only. I'm not saying that immigration has not played a part. What I'm saying is, it's not only down to immigration. It's mainly down to the difficulties that people are encountering today because of the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza and the lack of resources for people to live decent life. So you can see that those politicians have failed to bring about a real proposition and solution to the people. So what people have voted for is for politicians who are promising them better life. Immigration have played a very insignificant part into those in those elections. People are more concerned about their well-being, their welfare, the health system, the education of the people, the security of those people who will go out and expect to be back at home and not being shot at. This is what concerns more of the people. And we have to say that the UK population is very much misinformed about the war in Gaza and elsewhere because of this propaganda media that we have all over in the West. They're not telling the truth to the people. The ones who are not afraid to go to the source of the information really know the case of the Palestinian people. They know the problem that the African people are suffering, and the result is in the election. We can see that they want a change, they want a new direction, and we hope that the new government here in the UK and also in France with the new formation, which is the gathering of many small left parties within the new front, will bring about the change that we all aspire.
For joining us.
Thank you. This was Manix Mantho from London, political analyst, a friend of mine. We went to school together in Abidjan. Yes, and it's a good buddies of my brother Leopold, who
lives where? In Montreal.
Yeah, but now is back to England to help his son who goes to school over there. Manix, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then bravo les Anglais.
Bravo les Français aussi.
Bravo les Français aussi.
Oui. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Ok.
Et merci, à la prochaine.
D'accord.
Oui, merci.
Voilà, donc pendant que Manix s'en va, he turns off his computer, we can maybe talk about what's going on here.
We can begin to talk about this kind of a nefarious Supreme Court case, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That everybody's hair is on fire. Well, not everybody's hair is on fire, but many of the Democrats' hair is on fire.
Hue and cry.
For a lot of hue, but only from certain parts of this political spectrum. You'll notice that, right?
So is it like,
Okay,
Sandy?
let me start by, I'm going to comment on the case, but I want to start by saying I'm one of the few people that I know that actually watches Fox. I watch
Fox too.
I know, but that's very unusual these days. We are carefully taught not to watch Fox because that's the network of, I guess, the wild-eyed Republican Party. And sometimes it is. Correct, but not totally. Okay, I also watch, though, CNN and MSNBC. So I watch both the left media, which is the Democratic Party. CNN and MSNBC are kind of the voice of the Democratic Party. And Fox is the voice of the Republican Party, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And one of the reasons that you and I are committed to a different kind of journalism is journalism should be nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Nonpartisan. It shouldn't be connected to either party. It should be independent. And that's why I think citizens are making journalism rather than depending on these partisan networks.
So if we had to break down what happened
in
this case, what exactly the Supreme Court came up
The Supreme Court was asked to decide on whether or not the President of the United States had immunity or kind of forgiveness for any crime or any action that that President took within his official capacity. That's been decided before. But anyway, in this case, the Republicans were actually arguing that the president should be immune in that president's official capacity, doing official acts, and not immune in crimes that he or she were committing in their personal lives.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, to me, what the court decided. The court decided that a president is pretty much immune from anything he does within his role as the president. To me, it was a statement of what already exists. As you know, and as I know, the president commits enormous crimes every day in terms of war. The president of the United States has been accused many times of war crimes, right? Okay, but when is he criminally responsible for those acts and when isn't he? And the court pretty much decided that within his official capacity, doing official acts, pretty much he can't be prosecuted. That's awful to me. It's not a good thing for me personally, but it is the way things have been for a very long time. And I'll give you an example. The Republicans the Democrats don't mention this. While President Obama was in office, I was horrified that he was committing assassinations of U.S. citizens abroad in other countries. An imam, a holy man, who Obama didn't like kind of what he was saying. I think he was he was in one of the Arab countries.
Yemen?
I don't think Yemen, but maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But anyway, I could look that up. I'm sorry I didn't happen to think of that. But anyway, he was talking the way that he shouldn't talk in accordance with the President of the United States. Probably anti-American, probably. And so he was assassinated. And everybody knew it. He was assassinated by the United States.
But Sandy, it's
okay, but wait a minute. He was also, his kid was part of that. And the kid, a 16-year-old kid, was also killed in that attack.
He was in Yemen, yeah. So, but Sandy.
Okay, but to go on and then ask me anything you want. He was immune. Obama never was prosecuted, and the family of those people tried to at least do something about the fact that it wasn't a war crime, really. We weren't at war. but they couldn't do anything because it was Obama and he was acting as the President of the United States. End of story. So why then are the Republicans' the Democrats' hair on fire about what the President is allowed to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like this for a long time. But
Right.
how is it then? I mean, is it easy, or how can you distinguish official duties?
You can't. And that's what the court said, that the trick in all of this is interpreting when it's an official act and when it isn't. Does the president, for instance, have the right to assassinate his opponents? Does he have the right to kill people and argue that it's within his official acts? What the court said, essentially, as I understand it, was that there's this gray area that has to be determined how far a president can go and when is it an official act and when it isn't. But that, to me, has been the way it's been the same really ever since, I think, World War II and the rise of the Central Intelligence Agency and the rise of the National Security Act, which gives the president enormous amounts of power in his official capacity.
But like those who are against this ruling are saying, for example, with the case of January 6th,
Yeah.
Was the president acting in the capacity of a
First
president?
of all, I think that those people, I don't even know what the president was doing on January 6th.
Okay.
You'll notice how partisan that discussion is. That discussion is saying he did this insurrection. There's been no criminal finding that he did anything. No criminal finding. I'm not certain he's been accused of a crime. And all I know is that he has a big mouth, that guy. President Trump has a big mouth. And he probably tried to get Mike Pence to do something about the Electoral College. Is that a crime? He hasn't been convicted of anything. They're trying. It's a partisan attack in a way. The Democrats are saying that he participated in an insurrection. The Republicans are saying he did not. I don't know what the truth is. He has not been convicted of anything to do with it.
Practically, it's difficult to solve. But on a moral standard, no, Sandy.
Okay.
Like assassinating.
Yeah.
But all this does it give to the president enormous power?
Yes.
Can it put like the balance of power in question?
Look at the President of the United States.
It's almost a monarch.
No, but he has enormous power. And he can't, but the part that I get so upset about is this has been the case for a long time. And where are the opponents to that when their party is in power? When Obama's in power, do you hear the Democrats ranting and raving about it? When Trump is in power, do you hear the Republicans ranting and raving about it? No. What I'm arguing is this whole discussion is politically, partisanly based.
Okay. Is there a chance that, a reform of all this could happen, but serenely?
But what?
But it has to be in a more serene ambience, atmosphere rather than political, because it can't
Look at politics in this country are poison right now on both sides. And I think politics in this country are too much determined right now by how people feel. And if they feel hatred, I'm not a Trump fan or I'm not a Biden fan or not. I think I regard the world realistically. However, people have hated Trump so much that that's determined their politics too much.
That they didn't even notice that Biden was...
but that's a different subject, but I want to get into that.
Yeah.
Right, but this case, they've accused Trump, for instance, of insurrection. Did he really do it? And they've allowed that to color everything else. They allow their hatred to color everything else, including the interpretation of this case. Right? They're saying that Trump really has too much power. And that this case gives Trump too much power. Well, the case also might give Obama too much power, but what I'm arguing is that should not be partisan. The fact is that the President of the United States might have too much power. And that's true no matter who's in power. And that power has lasted and been in place really since World War II and the Cold War.
A power that even allows him to choose, to pick who is at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I guess so, but that has to go through...
Sandy, I would like to know more. How can, in a democracy, a president pick a Supreme Court to his taste?
It can't. It has to go through hearings in Congress. I mean, institutionally, the United States, institutionally, is fairly sound. Mm-hmm. It's institutions.
People.
No, the court is fairly sound. The Congress is a fairly sound institution. Even the presidency is fairly sound institution. The fact is that all of those institutions have been corrupted by partisan politics, all of them. Mm. And that is a damn shame. Because if you look at the U.S. Constitution, it is one of the best constitutions and probably one of the only and the oldest in the world. And it has been corrupted by our political leaders in both parties.
In Europe, small parties were able to make a strong change. I mean, a significant change. Maybe. But at least they're viable.
Yes.
And then they have their voice heard, and they can even shift the balance.
But right, you know why?
Yeah.
Small parties cannot succeed, at least with the presidency, because of the Electoral College. Mm. That is the one institution that, more than any other institution, has ruined American democracy.
Is there a chance that institution get taken away?
I don't think so.
Why?
I don't know why. Because of the entrenched powers of the elite, primarily. I don't know why. The Electoral College arose from slavery. Slavery's been abolished, thank God. I don't know why we still have an Electoral College, but it prevents, for instance, a state like Vermont, 3 electoral votes. If the people choose by 1 vote in the general election to elect, for instance, Biden, and if the vote goes that way by 1, all 3 electoral votes though go to that person. It doesn't divide it. Even though the general election might be 49 to 51%, the 51%, the guy who won 51% will get all 3 electoral votes.
So all these 200 or some 100 years, that promise of fairness and democracy has not been fulfilled?
In the Electoral College really gives rise to skepticism about the fairness of the election.
Down to the
other
matters.
No, it doesn't really. Yeah. The elections, I would think, of the Congress are fair enough. They're ruined by the elites and all the money that they give to certain candidates, but they're elections.
I mean,
but the president is elected by the Electoral College. That is a problem.
But if the Supreme Court and then the next, maybe the next president, if Donald Trump is re-elected.
It looks like he very well might be. Let's get into that.
So if he's the next president, he will be so happy because he is himself, I know he's a big mouth, he's bragging about, having a nice Supreme Court.
He got one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it here fair?
No, he got that
balanced power?
He got the Supreme Court because he won fair and square. He nominates judges, and then those judges were passed by the Congress. Let's look at that.
But the Congress was favorable to him.
Yes, of course. So what?
So, this is so.
Guess what? That's politics.
Oh well. So is politics fair?
Politics are the result of majoritarian rule.
But
you either take it or not.
Yeah,
okay.
Majoritarian rule. Here, for example, in France, you have 2 rounds of elections.
Yeah.
But here, you come first, you get it.
That's right.
You come first, you get it.
Okay, that's the U.S. Tough. Go to France.
No, I understand. But even people in UK who are, also same kind of, type of elections, are hoping that they can have something like in France. People also in France would like to have the one.
So let those countries change it.
Yeah, maybe there will be,
No, I'll tell you what would happen.
Yeah.
What will happen if you truly challenge power in France, in England, in the United States or really in Iran or anywhere else. The elites are going to try to stop you any way they can. Any way they can. The only people, the only thing that changes politics is grassroots citizens.
Because so far I haven't seen much difference between the Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
I mean,
correct.
There are, you know, grand themes.
Especially on the issue of war.
Yeah.
They're both the same. Always. Okay, lastly, I want to tell you one example of presidential power. That was probably the worst exercise of presidential power that I can think of. And that was when President Truman decided unilaterally to use nukes against Japan. He did that unilaterally.
Unilaterally?
Yes. Never went through Congress. Never went through Congress, and that was in 1945.
But never went to Congress. Nobody, you know...
I'm not certain people in Congress even knew it. Did he get prosecuted about that?
No.
Did he get criticized about that?
No, maybe he get even celebrated.
In fact, my brother, I remember my brother, good for Harry Truman, give it to those Japanese.
Yeah.
Ooh, not me, man. I knew it was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, and all these assassinations across the globe, you know, or, you know. Yeah, I think that, but there's no chance that the president here
The chance is,
power reduced.
wait a minute, the chance comes from people below the government.
But
us,
how can they?
us.
How can they be if they cannot
okay,
have a party?
Organizations, the people in this country, the people changed the course of the Vietnam War, stopped it. It was protest, it was voting.
But also the U.S. wasn't
And
winning.
guess what? Yes. And also, it was the result of the grassroots efforts of the Vietnamese people. Both. They beat us.
This war is not a fair.
It is fair if citizens take their power.
But unfortunately, citizens, how then? Maybe grassroots journalism, because it's so difficult. And Manix was saying it like from England, all the medias.
That's why we have to make.
Brainwashing.
Okay, Eric, I've told you this a million times. That's why citizens have to make their own media. And that is what's happening across the United States. There's a whole branch, even at UVM, of citizen journalism, stuff like what we do. We're the ones who have to make journalism. I said something that I believe heartily. We have 3 major cable networks, correct? CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. Most people don't watch both, or all 3. They watch what they choose to agree with. All right. However, none of them cover really stories of the world. The only journalist that does that really is Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman. She concentrates on citizen journalism. We should do that too. We have to make our own media. Those 3 cable networks are partisan networks. The 2 of them are really Democratic networks and Fox.
And then I remember I was on the plane and watching Fox News, and then the lady next to me was horrified.
I know.
You are black. How can you watch?
What did you tell her? What did you tell her?
I said, I watch them all.
I know. And what did she say?
She said, oh my God, how could you? And then
that's what all my friends say to me. Oh, you just watch Fox. Well, I don't just watch Fox. I watch all 3. However, I do watch Fox. That's true. And the best debate on this subject of the Supreme Court case was on Fox, and it was done by a professor of law at George Washington University by the name of Jonathan, I think Jonathan Turley. I'm not certain of his first name. He had a real analysis. It was countered by lawyers on CNN. I also watched those too. But like he said, look, this has been the case, this has been the law for a very long time, that the president has immunity in official acts. He doesn't have immunity in his personal acts, but the areas get gray. Right.
I mean, so beside the grassroots organizations, is there something within the system that can, I mean, I'm not sure, because you said that when the Democrats are here, they won't go back to this issue because, you know,
No, they won't. If they win the next election, do you think that they're really going to criticize their own president for what's happening in Gaza? The United States has been accused seriously of war crimes on the part of the United States for assisting giving weapons to Israel. Their best ally of the Middle East is Israel. Are we going to really say that the president of the United States should not be assisting the kind of the massacre of the people of Gaza? They won't do that. They'll say it's, okay. And on the other hand, if the Republicans get elected, they're going to do the same thing too. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
No third party to.
There's no third party that's viable because, in terms of the presidency, because of the Electoral College. We could have third party politics. So we do in this state. We do. We have. For better or for worse, we have sort of a Republican Party, not in the city of Burlington, they're gone in this, but we have a Republican Party in the State House, we have a Democratic Party in the State House, and we have the Progressive Party, none of which I agree with, totally, but I'm glad we have three parties.
Yeah, because at least,
Like David Zuckerman is our Lieutenant Governor, he's a progressive and a Democrat. There are essentially three. I don't think that's enough, but anyway.
Right, Sandy, I think...
We've covered... Oh, but lastly, this thing about... the biggest issue to me right now is, are the Democrats going to keep Biden in place?
Are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is, again, because I watch Fox. I have known, because I watch Fox and they show Biden at his worst, and they've done it for years, I know of Biden's handicaps, and I've known him for a very long time. So for them to act surprised,
yeah, that's
it's
really
totally disingenuous. It seems to me they have tried to cover it up for a very long time. It appears to me. And what are they going to do now? You tell me.
Do you think that it's possible that Biden could? I mean, is there a way to force a candidate out? It's just up to him.
That's what they're saying. And if they don't get him out, then they're going to argue that Trump won because Trump's unfair or something. The Democratic Party gave us Biden. They are probably stuck with him, but it's their fault if Trump wins. It seems to me. I don't want Trump to win, but that's what they've done, isn't it? I don't see how Biden can win. Do you?
People think that it's not about the person in front of you. It's about the ideas.
It's the person in front of you. If he's handicapped so much that he can't even say a total sentence.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, on that you sometimes go against me. Is it that
go against
US,
you a lot?
The U.S. Political system is animated by older folks.
By what? No.
No,
and I do argue against that. I resent deeply the fact that everybody says that Biden's handicaps are because he's old. Look at Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but Bernie, Bernie Sanders could also,
Let me finish.
Would it be good for Bernie Sanders also to stop now and prepare the relay?
Old people are not necessary. No, I'll talk about that after I make my point, okay? Old people are not necessarily handicapped. Old people like Bernie, like me, I don't think of myself as having dementia. The problem with Biden is that he is seriously handicapped. That is the problem. And that he's incompetent because of it. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So if they put up Biden against Trump at this moment, 72% of the voters think Biden should not run. It's not because he's old. It's because he probably cannot do the job. Now, you can ask me about Bernie. Bernie is capable, competent, and old.
I agree with
Okay.
that, but it's a
But
culture.
this
It's a
is-
culture.
this isn't a
Bernie
culture.
could be a good advisor.
This is what you're asking.
The elders, as we
This
say.
is what you're
Yeah.
asking. He is a good advisor. First
Yeah,
of
he
all.
could be a good
He
advisor.
is now, and he should stay where he is because of his voice, his values, and his politics. Yes, he
Nobody
should
else
be,
can have the same
Okay.
voice as Bernie.
Yes, and he should train
didn't-
them.
He didn't train anybody yet.
No, he has, of course. He's
Who
trained.
are they?
Emma Mulvaney Stanek,
Yeah.
for one.
Uh-huh.
For
So
one,
none of them
David
can
Zuckerman
none of
for
them
another.
can take up, because also it's the signal that is you send to the young
Okay,
people.
you advise
For
and
the
train,
young
right.
people to rise to
I
power.
couldn't agree more.
The older folks should be retired.
That's what I don't agree with.
In Europe, people are fighting to retire at 60. The social
Yeah,
system.
because of their crappy jobs.
No, not crappy jobs. Here, they're more crappy jobs.
I know. I
No,
know.
It's because
and people
maybe
should
over
be
there
allowed
there's
to
a-
retire
there's
from
a
them.
less aggressive capitalistic system that allows people to aspire to a more, rewarding life. Here you
but
find
that's-
elders
hey.
that are forced to work till they
What?
croak on the
Okay,
job.
That's bad.
And
but
the
not Bernie.
politicians are the ones who are sending that signal. I would be happy to see Bernie Sanders prep a younger person and, be part of the advisor because...
You would be happy. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I want
All right.
Bernie to stay in power.
All right. All
Okay,
right.
so we don't disagree.
No, we don't.
Stay in power, Bernie, and train others. That's
When?
my thought.
When is he going to train us?
He does all the time.
Okay, we'll see.
He does all the time.
We'll see.
So we have 3 minutes left to continue this argument, Mr.
interesting.
Agnero. And
Yeah.
you're no spring chicken either.
Oh, I know. That's why I don't do... I agree with you, but Sandy...
Sandy, always.
Sandy, we need to think about that,
No, you need to think about it. I've already thought about it. I have already
of
thought
the
about it.
political,
Hey, look at what I
apparatus.
do. I train a lot of young people.
I agree with you.
Okay.
That's what you should do. But would you go for to
No.
become president? No, there's something.
No.
A president has to be on the go. It's a
Yeah.
physical job.
That's
It's
why
also,
Bernie should be president.
Okay, Bernie has more stamina than Biden.
Yes.
I agree. Sandy, talking about a younger or an older president, Iran
I know.
elected a
Okay.
president.
Yeah, thank heavens.
Who is the
Right.
oldest president of Iran in history?
Oldest or
Old
youngest?
is 69.
Yeah, good.
And then they said he's the oldest person elected as president in
I have
Iran.
great hope for him.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I saw a woman who was living in Paris, and she was the director of Persepolis. She's a very important person, an Iranian woman living in Paris. She wasn't hopeful at all. I'm hopeful. And she kept on saying, because of like you say, because the power structure behind the president is so strong that they're going to try to destroy him. Well, anyway, I still am hopeful.
Yeah, I'm still
I'm still
hopeful
hopeful.
because, anyway, if he comes to power, it means that internally there are, maybe
And
voices
it means
that
that
can rise to...
women might be able to lead a better life.
Yeah.
Right
But
now, in
also
Iran.
maybe, the Ayatollahs got the
Yeah, I know,
message from
could
the
be.
youth, got the message from the population that is, fed up with,
That's another interesting election that I wish we had more time to cover,
yeah.
actually.
We'll come back to it.
Okay,
because
great.
we'll see how the U.S.
Yeah,
will
and we'll
react
probably
to it.
argue about that too.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
we had a nice program today.
You think so? Big shot?
Because I had the luxury to tell Biden and Bernie Sanders to retire.
You did. I'm not telling Bernie to retire. No way. Are you kidding? No
Thank
way.
you so much and see you next time for what's going on.
Yeah.